What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video and to the channel. In this video, I wanted to go over an issue I encountered with my BMW E90 here. Now, it has been a while since I've encountered any sort of issue with this car. As you guys know, as I've mentioned, this car has been very reliable. It is a 328i with the N52. However, stuff can still go wrong, obviously. Stuff could break, stuff could stop working, malfunction, whatever. And something did indeed break on my N52 engine in my 328i here behind me that's really dirty. I don't know if you guys can tell. So the issue I encountered was a pretty bad coolant leak that was coming from the coolant expansion tank or the coolant reservoir. So to provide a little bit of context on what exactly happened. So as you guys know, I drive each car for about 1 week. So I had been driving the F30 behind me there for about 2 weeks actually, which is longer than usual. And I was going to switch back to the E90 as I was very excited to get back behind the wheel of the E90. And I had switched cars and everything, and I had driven the car to run some errands and stuff. Then I went back to my apartment and parked it in the garage. And then later that day I had to go out again for a drive to do something. And I noticed there was a huge puddle of coolant in the front of my car in my small garage. I could immediately tell it was coolant, so I opened the engine and I tried to look for where exactly it was coming from. And from what I could tell, it was coming from around the coolant expansion tank, the coolant reservoir, somewhere around there. However, I couldn't be sure exactly where it was coming from. I could tell it was kind of leaking from the bleeder screw that is on the coolant reservoir to bleed the, whenever you're bleeding the cooling system, you're supposed to unscrew that so that you can release air as it's going through the bleeding procedure. All right, I had to switch arms because my arm's getting tired here from holding this camera. But anyway, I noticed some coolant was coming from that bleeder screw, but it didn't seem like it would be enough to cause a huge puddle of coolant because the puddle was pretty big. Like, I thought there was like a crack somewhere, or a hose like ripped or something. I didn't believe it all came from just the bleeder screw. So anyway, I brought it back here because this is where obviously I store my cars and I work on my cars. And I just carefully drove over here, didn't want to heat up the engine or anything to cause the cooling system to turn on. And I made it over here without any sort of big leak or anything. But when I came back here, I really looked at the coolant expansion tank and I started messing with the bleeder screw. And before my eyes, I saw a bunch of coolant start leaking out of the bleeder screw and dripping down the side of the expansion tank, down through the inside of the engine bay and onto the ground. And it was clear all that coolant did indeed come from the bleeder screw. And as I was messing with it, kind of turning it with a flathead because maybe I thought like it had become loose, I turned it and sure enough, the head of that bleeder screw broke off and a bunch of coolant started flowing out of it. Not spraying out, but just flowing out of it. And it was clear that that is exactly the cause of the coolant leak that I was having on this car. Now, for those of you who have a BMW or know about BMWs, this is a pretty common issue on these BMWs, the E90 and the F-chassis BMWs. I'm not sure about the newer ones or the old ones. I'm pretty sure the old ones have a similar issue with the bleeder screws, since from what I can tell, they were all made of plastic, all of the bleeder screws, and over time they just heat up, cool down, and over time they just break and crack and whatever. So yeah, that tiny little bleeder screw is what caused a huge, or not huge, but like a pretty bad coolant leak on this car. So let me go ahead and pop open the hood and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about for those of you who may not be aware of this issue or this part. So here is the piece I have been talking about, and as you can see, the bottom part of it I put back in just in case it started leaking coolant. I didn't want, a bunch of coolant with the hole, being wide open. But as you guys can see, it is still wet from when it leaked. But yeah, this little tiny piece caused all this, and this is the bottom part of it because, like I said, the head broke off. So here is the head that broke off. And like I said, this is a pretty common issue where the head will break off if you twist it or try to loosen it over time. And yeah, and then cause a leak here. From what I've seen, sometimes it'll spray out like all over the inside of the engine bay and onto the hood. Thankfully that didn't happen with mine. It just sort of like pooled or spilled out of this hole here. I would have been pretty upset if it, you know, sprayed all over the hood and all over my painted engine cover. It still looks pretty good, for those of you who may be interested in that. I painted this over a year ago, almost 2 years now, and it still looks pretty good. So yeah, that process I did definitely worked. But yeah, anyway, this is the issue, and I'm going to replace this plastic bleeder screw that is already broken off with a metal one so that this does not happen again, like the head cannot break off. Oh yeah, one thing I was going to mention is that when the head breaks off, sometimes the rest of it is still screwed in to the hole there, and it may be difficult to get the rest of it out. Like, you don't see a way to turn the rest of it out and you think it's just stuck in there. But I got lucky with mine since it was kind of loose, so I just used some pliers and twisted it, and eventually I got it out. Some people are not so lucky, so what I've heard is that the best thing to do is to heat up a flathead screwdriver that fits inside here, and heat it up and then press on it on the top there, and it'll melt like a little groove for the flathead, and then you're able to unscrew it out of the socket. So that's the solution I've heard for if you aren't able to just twist it out with some pliers or something, and it's a little bit more difficult, it's a little bit tighter in there, you could do that. So here is the new metal bleeder screw that I got. It is made out of aluminum, and I got it from ECS Tuning for $28. Now there are a couple different types of metal bleeder screws you can get. You can get a brass one, a titanium one, or an aluminum one from what I've seen. I got this one specifically because it was the only black metal one that I could find. I wanted a black one so that it would blend in with the expansion tank. I did not want a brass one because it has sort of a gold look to it, and I feel like that would stand out a lot in the engine bay, and I didn't think I would really like how that looks, so I wanted to get a black one to match. So yeah, this one was on the more expensive side for a little tiny piece, but like I said, it was only black one. As you guys can see, it comes with a new gasket as well. If you guys may be interested in the same type of bleeder screw, I will leave a link to it as usual in the description if you guys want to check it out, from ECS Tuning. So yeah, it looks exactly the same as the original plastic bleeder screw, but the only difference is that it is made out of aluminum, so it is metal. It is nice and hard and not as brittle as the plastic. This is the perfect alternative for me. Hopefully this one works out as I expect it to. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rest of that piece and install this new one. Alright, so as you guys saw, I very quickly installed this new one. All you have to do is just simply screw it in. Now, it may be kind of confusing on how tight you need to tighten it, but from what I've seen, it just needs to be hand tightened. You do not want to over tighten this so you don't, you know, mess up the threads in the expansion tank. So this is what I'm going off of here. So this line is pointing at the hose and then to the cap, and if I were to need to loosen it to bleed out air, I would simply turn it 45 degrees. The cool thing about this one, it has little grooves inside, so if you use a flathead about this size and just insert it, it has a nice secure little groove in there for you to tighten it or loosen it. So right now I just did a hand tighten. Now if I were to loosen it, like I said, to bleed out the air, just simply turn it this way, 45 degrees, just like that, and that should be enough for the little groove on the side of the threads to release air. And then just turn it back like that, and that's it. So hopefully that should be it. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the car on and see if any coolant leaks out. Well, first actually let me check the coolant level, since a bunch of coolant did leak out. Let's see here. Yep, so yeah, I definitely need coolant. That marker is all the way inside the reservoir, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and fill up with more coolant real quick here. Alright, so I got my 50-50 mixture here of coolant. Go ahead and pour it in. Alright, so I let the engine idle for about 5-6 minutes until it kind of warmed up to see if any coolant would start leaking out, and from what I can tell, it is no longer leaking any more coolant, so that is a relief. Hopefully it'll stay like this. Obviously I won't be able to tell until like the engine is completely warmed up, like I've taken it for a drive and everything, and then to see if there's any coolant now leaking out of the bleeder screw. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I will update you guys if it does. But yeah, that pretty much completes this replacement here for this bleeder screw, and I'm assuming it solved that issue. But yeah, with this metal one, now there is zero chance of the head cracking and breaking off in the event that you need to bleed the cooling system. And just over time, it won't ever, you know, crack and then start leaking like it did. The only thing that I think could fail is the O-ring. Just over time with heat, those start to fail also. So that's the only thing that I could see failing, is just the O-ring on this metal bleeder screw. But I'm hoping that it won't be for like a long time, like 5+ years down the road. Alright you guys, so that solves this issue I had with the leaking bleeder screw. Hopefully, I'm fairly certain it's fixed, but as I mentioned, I will let you guys know if it ends up leaking again. Maybe I didn't tighten it properly or something else is wrong. I will definitely let you guys know. But yeah, from what I can tell, this is a fairly common issue on the BMW E90 chassis and the BMW F chassis, or any BMW with a plastic bleeder screw on their expansion tank. It's probably best to make this replacement or do this replacement before it starts leaking coolant like mine, so that you don't have to deal with any leaking coolant and not being able to drive your car until the piece comes in like me. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing this now. If yours is not leaking yet, it probably will at some point in the future. So yeah, it's better just get this out of the way and not have to worry about it down the road. But yeah, I'm very happy to have the E90 back and running, so I'm definitely going to switch cars and drive this one for a bit because I do miss driving it. As I mentioned, I will leave a link directly to this black aluminum bleeder screw from ECS Tuning if you guys want to check out this one. You like the black look matching with the expansion tank like me. However, there are also brass ones or titanium ones that are available. So yeah guys, I just wanted to share this issue with you guys. For those of you who may be new to BMWs and are kind of looking for issues that may come up, this is one of them. So hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. As usual, if you guys have any additional questions, comments, or anything about the car, feel free to comment those down below the video and I will respond to you there. Thank you guys for watching. As always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more content like this if you liked what you saw. Also, feel free to check out my website at inline6auto.com if you guys are looking for any aftermarket accessories for your BMW E90 3 Series or F30 3 Series back there like what I have. I have a bunch of carbon fiber accessories and lighting accessories and all that stuff, so I'll leave a link in the description as usual if you guys want to check out my website. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next video.